Hi, this is Steve. Welcome back to my channel, Scale Model Kit Review. In this video, I continue to build the Volkswagen T1 Samba bus. Now, I am working on pack number 11. In pack number 11, we received 5 more stages. So with those stages, I continue to work on the rear end of the bus, the rear suspension in that area. It's a lot of fun, and I'm having a blast doing this. If you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and check out this build today and subscribe today. Let them know I sent you. So without further ado, let's get started. Welcome back to another installment of the Build the Volkswagen T1 Samba Volkswagen bus. Now I am on pack number 11. In pack number 11, I received 5 more stages, stages 48 through 52. With pack 11, I also received a free gift, and this is a beautiful 1/43rd scale Volkswagen T2 version, and this is a free gift from DeAgostini Collectibles. Head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this bus today. There you'll see what gifts you'll receive when you subscribe, so they may not be the same as this, but in this case this is what I received, which is the T2 1956 version of the bus, and very nice. Let's look at one of the magazines, and this is stage 48. I'll take you through this page by page. In this case, they talk about the bay window engines, and this would be the T2 version of the engine. 1600 cc normally is what these engines were aspirated at. Beautiful article here, wonderful pictures, a lot of research was done into these magazines. So they give us the engine codes for the T2, what horsepower was offered, around, like I was saying, around 47 horsepower for the T2, 40 horsepower for the older models. And like I said, it's a wonderful article. Then we'll work on the transmission and the engine, installing the engine onto the chassis. And beautiful illustrated instructions here, all in color, easy to follow, very fun to build. This has been a lot of fun to build. And there you go. So in order for you to see the rest of the articles, you'll have to subscribe to this bus yourself. That way you have something to look forward to and something you can read while you're building your bus. So let's look at the parts next. Stage 48, we received the transmission. Stage 49, the heating accessories. Stage 50, the suspension and rear torsion tubes. Stage 51, the rear bumper. And lastly, stage 52, the rear chassis frame. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on stage 48. Let's get started on stage 48. Before I start stage 48, I'm going to go ahead and show you something I forgot to do in stage 47 on the engine. And we'll go ahead and get a closer look here. I was so excited to build this that I forgot to install the coil wire onto the top of the distributor. So it's right here laying free, as you can see. And I'm going to go ahead and grab it with some tweezers and plug it in. And there it goes. You may opt to want to go ahead and super glue that in place, but it does fit in there just fine. Okay, let's go ahead and get started on 48. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 48. And for stage 48, we get the parts for the transmission, and we're going to install the engine in the chassis. See, we got the assembly diagram. We're going to use the chassis from stage 47. And you can see here. We'll get a close look at that here in a little bit. So we'll insert the engine from underneath, just like the real thing actually. We're going to install some screws there. looking good. And install the transmission itself after it was assembled. And all the wiring and electrical components for the transmission. And that's how it should look. Alright, let me get the chassis component and the parts for this stage. I'll be right back. And here's the chassis we received with 47. I'll go ahead and take this out. There's the chassis. Nicely painted. Looks very good. This, of course, this is going to be the underneath side, and this is the top side. And the screws. BD04 screws. Here's the parts for stage 48. I'll take these out. We'll get a closer look. Screws we received are the BP05 screws and some of the electrical conduits and the transmission pieces themselves. They are made of plastic. Let's get started. Alright, the first thing we do is we install the engine onto the chassis, and it's going to go on just like that. We'll flip it over, line up our holes. Looks good. BD04 screws go into this. We got 4 of them to put in, and I lubricated the holes already with my Vaseline that I normally use. And I switched to my PH1 screwdriver just to get better bite on these screws. And there we go. All 4 are in. Looks good. Mounted onto the chassis. Looks great. Let's proceed with the build here and work on the transmission. So here's our transmission. We simply will put the 2 halves together here. It is made of plastic, so we don't have to lubricate any of the holes. And we're going to put BP05 screws into this. 2 go in this. And 2. There you go. That's our transmission, or sometimes referred to as a transaxle for the Volkswagen. And we're going to install this onto the chassis. And we're going to line up the 2 holes here to the 2 holes in the middle. And we'll put the hole here in there first, just to get that in. And then line up the other 2. There we go. BP05 screw goes into this, 2 of them, right here. Here's one. And the last one. Great. And that's how that looks there. Looks great. Now we're going to bring over this conduit here. Okay, the first one goes in right there. Put that in there. And then the next one goes right there. And then the next one goes right there. Just like that. Number 9, that goes there. That goes there. Okay, number 6 goes here, and number 7 goes there. Number 6 is the one with 2 wires on it. Okay, number 7. Now number 6 goes down below it. Number 8 goes up here. That looks good there. And we have these that aren't hooked to anything yet. Now install the next wire harness, and I'll show you up close how this goes. Basically, it says to put follow the numbers again, just like the illustrations I'm showing you. They are numbered number 1 through 6, and if you look at the chassis, number 2 is actually located in the wrong spot. They say number 2 is here, but actually number 2 is right down below it. Okay, so I'll show you up close how this all goes together. Number 1 is up here. And then number 2 is not here, it's down below it. Number 3 is just above that. Number 4. And the last one, 5 and 6. There they are. Okay. So here's the completed harness on the left side. And I'll just move this out of the way. That's how that all looks. And there's the completed harness on the right side. And that's how they should look. And that completes stage 48, where we installed the engine and transaxle on the bottom of the chassis. And that's what that all looks like there. Looks great. Let's head over and do stage 49. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 49. This time we received the heating accessories. Here's the parts. And here's the assembly diagram. We put together the heating system tubes. Screw those together. And then we're going to start to install those on the chassis. We had to put in the heat shields themselves. And they show us exactly where those go. Then we put in the swing axle boots, and they go onto the transaxle itself on each side. And we install the heater pipes, or the heater tubes. Screw those down, and that's what it should look like. Let me get the parts, and I will be right back. Here's a parts pack for stage 49. I'll take this out, we'll get a closer look. Here's a close-up of those parts, and the heater tubes are made of plastic. The heat shields are also made of plastic. They are marked left and right. BPO3, BPO4 screws. The transaxle boots, they are rubber, which is very cool. Let's get started. Okay, we're going to put these heating tubes together, and they simply just go together in halves on top of each other. And we're going to put 3 screws in. Okay, once they're together, we're going to put 2 screws in. 2 BPO3 screws on this side here. just until they're tight. There we go. Both are in. Looks good. We're going to put one more screw on this side, and that's a BPO4 screw. It's a little bit larger. And that's good there. And two more BPO4 screws go into this. Two. There we go. Looks good. Now I'm going to bring over the heat shields, and we're going to install those onto the chassis. So I need to bring over the chassis, and the right side will go over here and the left side will go over there. And like I was saying, they are marked. There's an L on that and there's an R on that. So they just snap in place. So be careful putting these in. I actually broke mine trying to get it inserted in. So just be extra careful with them. I did lubricate them as much as possible, but it still gave me some problems and I ended up breaking it. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to do is I'm going to install the boots. And they just simply go over the top, the transaxle lugs. And that's how they look there. And we'll install the heater boxes. They go like that over 3 holes. Right here, and right there. Making sure that these lines are out of the way. They'll insert into those holes. There we go. 3 BPO4 screws go into that. One more. And that's how that looks there. That's all we do with stage 49. Let's head over and do stage 50. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 50. This time we work on the suspension and rear torsion tubes. That's all how that looks there. First thing we do is install the torsion plate on the torsion tube. Make sure that plate is installed flush, and then we'll install the cradle for the transmission or the transaxle cradle. And I can tell you it looks just like that on the real thing. And then we'll install the torsion tube suspension cradle. They look like parts of the shocks and all that. Then down onto the rear chassis, we'll put screws in on that, and that's what it will look like. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's parts pack for stage 50. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. These are pretty large parts made of plastic. And we got BPO4 screws. Let's get started. First thing we do is we install this plate, and it's half moon shaped, so it only goes on one way. So I need to flip it over and press it on there. It's on there flush as much as possible. Next I'll install the cradle, so I'll turn this over, and the cradle is going to go just like that. Two more BPO4 screws go into this. just until they're snug. And that's what that looks like there. That supports the transmission. Next thing we do is bring over our suspension support. And looking to see if there's a front and a back. They look the same either way. So this is simply just going to go down. Just like that. 2 more BPO4 screws go into this. Give myself something bigger. And that's how that looks there. Now we'll install this onto the chassis. And we're going to take our suspension. We're going to mount that right up against those items right there. Flip it over. 2 right here. And there we go. And that's how that looks there. That's all we do for stage 50. Let's head over and do stage 51. Let's look at the build instructions for stage 51. And this time we'll be working on the rear bumper. And here's all the parts we received. The assembly diagram. And looks like we'll be putting on the trim and the bumper brackets onto the bumper. Looks pretty easy to do. Here's the bumper brackets. And that's the completed bumper. Let me get the parts and I'll be right back. Here's the parts for stage 51. Let me take these out and I'll be right back. BPO8 and BPO6 screws. We received the bumper cushions themselves, and they are marked left and right. The bumper brackets, same thing. They are marked left and right, all made of plastic. And the bumper itself, it does have etched in there an R for right and an L for left. But there's your bumper. Let's get started. First thing we'll do, install the left bumper bracket. And it does, like I said, has an L on here to help us identify it. And it's going to go down just like that. BPO6 screw goes into this. Looks good there. Now we'll put on the right side one. Same thing. There you go. That looks good there. Next we'll put on the bumpers themselves and do the left side first. Here's the left one, and it's going to insert just like that. BPO6 screws go into this. Two for each. Just until it's snug. Okay, that's how that looks. I'll put it on the other side and I'll be right back. And there we go. That completes stage 51. Here's our rear bumper. Looks great. Let's head over to the final stage, stage 52. Let's look at the build instructions for the final stage for Pack 11, stage 52. This time we received the rear chassis frame. And we're going to be installing the bumper onto that. And installing that onto the chassis. Very cool. And the bumper goes on first. Put all the screws in for that. Then we'll mount the chassis frame to the chassis itself. And then we'll put in the axle shafts themselves off the transaxle. That's what they look like there. And that will complete Pack 11 and Stage 52. Let me get the parts, I'll be right back. Here's a parts pack for Stage 52. I'll take these out, we'll get a closer look. Here's parts for Stage 52. Here's our frame, it's made of metal, very nice. Axle shafts themselves, BPO4 and BDO4. Let's get started. First thing we're going to do, we're going to install the rear bumper onto the frame, and that's going to go down on top of these holes here, just like that. Four BPO4 screws go into this. Got my daughter's cat in the background. She misses her mom. Her mom's at work. She's a good cat. A little noisy sometimes. I don't know if you can hear her, but I can. Alright, last screw in, all four in. And that's how that looks there. Bumper is installed. Looks good. Now we're going to mount this to the chassis. I'll bring over the chassis. Okay, so this is going to go down in certain points, mainly on the bottom here. And I already greased the holes, so they will be ready for screws. Go ahead and put all 6 screws in. I'll turn this over. Next one. 2 more, one here and one there. And 2 more. Next we need to install the axle shafts, and they are marked with a left and a right. So this is the left side here. I want the right side, and the right side is going to go in on the right side here. Just like that. And do the same thing on the left side here. Press fits in. And there we go. And there you go. There's your axle shafts. And there you go. That completes Stage 52. And that also completes Pack number 11. A lot of fun to build, and I enjoyed it very much. If you haven't done so already, head over to DeAgostini Collectibles and subscribe to this bus today. It's fantastic. With that, happy modeling everybody, and take care.